We're almost to the end of the year, and that means we're in crunch time for trying to find the best bourbons and whiskeys of 2024. I still have a few I need to review and get to, and on tap today is one of those, the Penelope Estate Collection Private Select Bourbon, a 9-year-old bourbon coming from MGP, also known as Ross and Squibb. And in this video, I'm going to rate and review it on my 10-point rating scale, which I call the lightning counter. It's a 10-point scale using the nose, flavor, mouthfeel, finish, and then ultimately the value to see where it'll fall on my lists for bourbons and whiskeys of 2024, and whether or not it's a bottle that you should pull the trigger on the next time you head out to the liquor store. My name is Brandon Spinner, and you've stormed yourself here into the Whiskey Weather YouTube channel, and my motto here, it's always Whiskey Weather. If you're a big fan of bourbon, don't forget to smash that like button. Here on the channel, it's just about a year old, and we're getting close to 6,000 subscribers. So if you haven't done so already, please smash that subscribe button and share this video with your bourbon-loving friend, and let's jump right into the video. So Penelope, the Estate Collection, it's kind of like MGP's Buffalo Trace Antique Collection. It's got a very similar style bottle. It's elegant. It's got that nice piping and that golden look, not a whole lot going on. This is the black label, Private Select. It's 9 years old, as I started at the top with, and it comes in at 101.2 proof. Those are the particulars when it comes to the proof and the age. When we're looking at the mash bill, this is a 4-grain bourbon, but barely. It's got a 74% corn, 20% rye, 5% malted barley, and 1% wheat mash bill. So it's that close to just being 3 grains, but we've got that 1% wheat. As all Penelope bottles usually do, they are a 4-grain mash bill. This MSRP is actually relatively cheap comparative to a lot of those other releases that we've already done this year. You can check out some of those bourbon reviews, including the Infinite Blend from Jim Beam, which comes in right at $200 or so. This is much easier to at least pay for at $80. So the MSRP, not nearly as high. But is it worth that? We're gonna put that to the test today. So Penelope was recently bought out by MGP, and the rumor is that it looks like Penelope is kind of going to be the front runner for putting out some of MGP's top whiskeys. Already on the nose, very delicious. As I mentioned, I run through my lightning counter on a 10-point rating scale, but that is 5 equal parts. The nose, the palate, or the flavor, the mouthfeel, the finish, and then the value. All of those worth 2 points come together to make that 10-point scale. Oh, that is delicious on the nose. Caramels, vanillas, like a vanilla cupcake is the first thing that jumps out to my mind. Caramels and the oaks are there. A little bit of plum or cherry. Wow, that is a very beautiful nose. There's a little bit of that cinnamon trying to sneak in, maybe a little bit of leather. Tobacco maybe. Overall, very pleasant. And this is one of the better noses out there. I would rate this close to the Russell's 15 on the nose. And I did that review up there on the top right of my screen. And as you saw at the top, that is my current front runner for Bourbon of the Year, but we still have a few to get to. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button, because in the next couple of weeks, I will be putting out my top lists, and you're not gonna wanna miss those. As for the nose on this, I'm going to 1.9 out of 2. That is very delicious. I don't know what I would ask for more out of it. I could sit here and nose this all day. For 9 years old, that is very yummy, at least on the nose. Let's see how it tastes. I always take an initial sip, kind of burn off all of the bacteria and all those other things on my tongue, and then dive in for the review from there. So it's not as sweet on the palate as you would get from the nose. So there's a little bit of a disconnect for me there. Not saying that's terrible, but I was hoping for a little more sweetness on the palate. You get a lot of the oak. For 9 years old, this definitely has, to me, more of a 12, 13-year-old oak profile. A lot of the vanillins, that caramel is there. That nose is just so delicious. The cherries don't really come through on the palate as much as they do on the nose in my mind. Classic bourbon though, that caramel, oak. And the best part of this for me, the back end, isn't too overpowering with cinnamon and leather, which I feel like a lot of the bourbons I've had recently, as you may have seen in some past videos, I say that kind of takes over the profile, takes over the identity. That's not the case here. Wow. I'm going to go with a 1.7 on the palate here. That is very delicious. You know what? 1.6. I jumped the gun there. I would wish for a little more sweetness, but that is still very delicious. I would hope for a little more depth in flavor, but there are a ton of flavors in here. I just wish that it had a little bit more sweetness, a little more oomph to it. But at 101 proof, you still have plenty of flavors. You don't feel like it's too watered down. Very delicious. As for the mouthfeel, there's a velvety feel. Coats the entire mouth. Very delicious. That's a 1.8 as well. So 1.9, 1.6, 1.8. What I love about the mouthfeel is it coats your whole mouth. It's not terribly syrupy, but it's got a velvety oil feel, maybe a little more buttery, where it continues to coat the whole mouth. I feel it in my tongue, up into my lips and my cheeks. When I'm looking for a mouthfeel, that's pretty close to perfect to me. A little bit dry towards the end, which is probably my one critique on it, but overall, that is very delicious. And then when you get to the finish, the caramels were really potent there. The finish, I get a little bit of that oak. There's some of that rye coming through, but it's not overpowering. I'd say more of a white pepper than a black pepper. That's probably where I get the rye the most. Of course, I'm not really getting a whole lot of the wheat characteristics out of that. It is a soft finish. It's dry. A little hint of cinnamon in the leather, but I like when they're there. I just don't love when it's overpowering, which I've had in a few of my previous reviews. But overall, that is a very good finish. I'd say I wanted maybe a little more sweetness to it, so I'm going to go with a 1.6 there as well. But overall, that is very, very good. And before we get to the value, I want to talk about what I'm presenting here right now. Nesh, this is drinkitneat.com. I've got a link in my bio. They have a ton of great glassware. These are brand new that they just dropped on their website. These heavy bottom glass tumblers or heavy base tumblers. Actually pretty cheap. These would make great cocktail glasses, or if you just like to drink your whiskey on the rocks. These are fantastic. If you want to check that out for $45, and I believe they've got a 15% off sale on their website right now. I've got a link below if you want to check them out, and it's also in the comment section below. They also make some really cool devices as well. They've got that base that is basically a coaster, but you can freeze it and it basically chills your whiskey if you don't want to water it down or dilute it. Or they also have the whiskey chiller, which you can also get for your wife if she likes her wine chilled as well, or your husband if you're a lady watching the whiskey channel here, because the whiskey weather channel is for everybody, because it's always whiskey weather. So let's jump into the value. I really enjoy what I've got out of this. It's $80 MSRP. The most I'd probably pay for this is $100. I don't love to go too high over secondary. Maybe $110 if you're twisting my arm. But if you're able to find this anywhere from $80 to $100, I would say pull the trigger. So the value at $80 for a 9-year-old bourbon that comes in right at 101 proof. It's a little higher than some of those other bottles that you'd be finding out there, but this is probably one of those cheaper allocated bottles that you're going to find. I'm going to go with a 1.8 on the value there. I wish maybe it was a little higher proof for that $80 range, but that's just me nitpicking. Overall, very, very impressed with this. So 1.9 plus 1.6, that's 3.5. Let's do the math. 5.3 when you add the 1.8. 6.9 when you add the 1.6. And that's going to come out, if my math is correctly, to a total lightning counter score of 8.7 for the Penelope Estate Private Select Bourbon. Really delicious. This would make the list currently as at least a top 10 bourbon of 2024 and at least a top 10 whiskey of 2024. As I continue to round out my reviews, we'll see where that falls into the end. But overall, if you have a shot to buy this, if you like MGP, if you like that classic bourbon at a good price, but this is just elegant, it's delicious. I really love what they're doing over at Penelope. Yeah, that is a very delicious pour. Anywhere from $80 to $100, I would say pull the trigger and get yourself one of these, because it is absolutely delightful. I do want to thank each and every one of you for taking the last 10 minutes or so to watch this video. As I mentioned, we are so close to 6,000 subscribers. If you haven't subscribed already, please smash that below and maybe think about joining the Whiskey Weather Stormfront, which is what I call my Patreon and YouTube members. You can find the links down there below, but I have a ton of amazing members and Patreon members. We just cracked the 70 member mark. Also just started a Facebook group as well, which I have in the comment section below. And that Facebook group is open to everybody and anybody. So if you're not thinking about Patreon, if you don't want to join that, that's fine. Join the community below. For access to barrel picks, you probably want to join the Patreon. Just sold out of my Green River barrel pick, but I've got more on tap for 2025. The goal is anywhere from 6 to 8, and I've got one scheduled for January. So you're going to want to check out the Whiskey Weather Stormfront. Each and every one of you, thank you so much. I already said that, but I couldn't do this year without you, the viewer. You are what makes this channel so great, so awesome. And I'm hoping to continue to grow and give you better and better content and quality as we go throughout 2025. As I end every other video, please remember to drink responsibly, and remember, it is always whiskey weather. If you enjoyed this review, don't forget to check out some of my previous reviews right there on the top right. Until then, cheers. If I don't see you, have a Merry Christmas, and we'll see you in that next video.